podcast mode. Everyone should be able to hear. Let me.
There he is on the screen.
Oh, I didn't even see the start menu.
Oh yeah, I've had that for
That's
a little
cool.
bit.
Wow.
Why Discord do you not want to show in OBS? I was just doing all this testing. Um, how are you doing, Zanya? Good to see you. All right, there we go. Discord is
Hey,
showing
Zanya.
up. So yeah, bear with me real quick as I kind of fumble through this. But yeah, so this is GameBabes episode 3, and we are gonna be talking about our favorite music, and that kind of varies for all of us, whether it's a specific song or kind of a general OST or a mix of both. Um, and our favorite trailers in video games. So, again, I'm here with myself. I'm Filbert. We have Msmoon.
Hello, everyone. How are you doing?
We have Pixel Phoenix,
How we doing, everybody?
and finally Shadow.
Greetings, people of the interwebs.
But yeah, so I don't want to stick too long on the intro because I can see this being kind of a long episode. So I figure we'll start. And I want to point out both the Cactor and the Tom Berry in the are made by our lovely Msmoon. Awesome little graphics she created, and I was like, I gotta put those in the.
Yeah, those
Gotta
are
get those
awesome.
images up here.
They're so good.
Thanks, guys.
So where the Tom Berry is, that specifically for trailers, that's where the trailers will show up while you're watching on stream. But yeah, I figure, hey, how you doing, Bacon? Good to see you here. So, oh, thank you for the follow, Zanya. So I'm gonna kick off talking about kind of my favorite music. So this is a mix of kind of OSTs and songs. I did top 7 because I kind of want to focus a little bit more on 3 specific trailers. So we all kind of vary a little bit as kind of pick 5 of each. Some people did more of one, less of another, or like a lot of both. But yeah, so I'm gonna get started with my top music. And first thing, I need to share my screen to you guys. Or at least share my VLC player. So you guys should be able to see that, so you'll be able to hear it as it kicks off. So first, I want to say a couple honorable mentions, and for me, that is probably it is Final Fantasy 6 and 7. I adore both those soundtracks. They are in definitely my top 10, but they didn't quite make the cut for top 7. And I do want to point out, music is one of those things where if you ask me my top 10 favorite OSTs or favorite songs or favorite bands, you're probably going to get a different top 10 every week. But at the time I made this, I was like, man, especially Final Fantasy 6, it's so close. But a lot with these honorable mentions, there's like a handful of songs that really appeal to me, but the rest I don't think is like bad by any means. But it doesn't hit me like certain tracks will. Dancing Man is probably actually my favorite like video game song of all time. But some of the other stuff in this list, I'll get into it later. Why it kind of pushed some of these out, but I think Skyrim has just some classic music. And I don't know if any of you guys have ever played the Tropico series, but the soundtracks in those games is just amazing. And I have another quick kind of honorable mention is one of the games I put a ton of time into is 2 Point Hospital, and it is made from the same people who made Theme Point Hospital. If any of you played that way back in the day, it is came out I think in like '97 by Bullfrog Studio, and I just want to highlight most of the music in that game is kind of serviceable music, but it has like 2 joke tracks because like in the game universe there's someone named Jasmine Odyssey, and they have 2 vocal tracks that she like, sings in it, and they are way too good for just being essentially joke tracks. So this is the first one called Fish Whispers. It was a PC game. It might came out on PlayStation 1.
For you, I'll wet my feet. Is this some
So yeah, this is like a genuine like slapping ballad, and it is like a silly lyrics. Every time the song comes on in the radio in the game, I can't help but just like crack a smile and just be like, there's no reason this should be so good.
It does sound quite moving.
Oh, I might be the only one who can't hear it currently. Oh no.
Uh-oh.
Have to turn it. Watching the stream.
Yeah, are you able to hear through...
Oh, here we go. Yep, I just had Twitch muted. Sorry.
Or are you not able to hear it through the live in Discord?
I cannot.
Oh.
You might, if you
See.
go to the bottom corner of the right.
Yep. Yeah, it's turned down. There we go. Much better.
That way we don't have to lag. So, the other song is called You Have a Nice Smelling Face. And it's a lot more of like an upbeat song. But again, this is just music that has no reason to be this good for what it is.
You can't tell truth from a rumor. Can't even make your dinner and you can't tie your shoes. And I know why they're asking.
I'm gonna just jump ahead a little bit.
You've got a nice smelling face. No way that I could replace that smell, yeah, even a trace. You've got a nice smelling face.
All right, so those are part of my honorable mentions, but I just had to shout them out. And I don't know if any of you have any other like kind of joke songs, specifically like in games that like come to mind. That's like that was way too good for being essentially like a throwaway joke. But
I
I'm trying
have
to
one
think
that I
back.
thought about sending you, but I think you would murder me. If I did.
oh, yes, that would get you banned if you sent the chocobo GG.
Oh my
It was
goodness.
creepy menu music, indeed.
All right. So at this point,
The GameBabes.
we get to my number 7, and that is the Rome Total War OST. I think the whole soundtrack to this game just does a fantastic job of just putting you just in the vibe and the tone. So I picked 2 songs. So this is like kind of the main battle song. So Rome Total War strategy game, has RTS battles, big campaign map. But like whenever you have a battle going on, the trumpets, the drums, just they just like speak to me, especially like 13, 14-year-old me playing this game back in the day. And then this is called Lost Souls, which plays after you lose a battle, and just always makes me feel so depressed and so bad if I let one of my cities fall to like the enemy, or like have all my troops get essentially massacred. So yeah, Rome essentially kind of comes in at that seventh spot just because the music I just think was fantastic for really hitting the tone and what the game was kind of conveying with different feelings it was trying to push. Again, whether it's like after a battle or it had a bunch of soundtracks for different factions in the game. Um, it's with different, instruments and whatnot, kind of for that type of culture. But one of the few sound, not one of the few, but one of the soundtracks that really kind of just can zap me back to being like a teenager. Just those late nights, just one more turn, staying up way too late playing a video game. And then we get to my number 6, which is Cyberpunk 2077.
A recent one.
A recent one. And I had a rule of thumb, it all has to be original scores. So they did a fantastic job with making original music for this game and even reaching out to some actual artists. Hardest to Be is probably my favorite song from the soundtrack, which is currently playing.
Never knowing which way's up, down. It's never what it seems when it's all I'm ever missing. And it feels as though I'm waiting. And I don't need no head.
And again, this is like the type of song that you could almost expect to kind of like kick off on the radio or like on streaming. This song kind of picks up here in a minute, but even the non-lyrical music in this game hits that like cyberpunk tone really well, which I think is kind of tricky to be because you need like that industrial but also like techno kind of pop. And another song I sampled from the soundtrack, I'll jump ahead to it, is by Idris Elba. Came out with just a banger rap song for it. Which I think does a good job, like in the cyberpunk universe, a big aspect of whether it's straight cyberpunk like the game, like the IP, or like the genre, like different types of like gangs and organizations all have very different like feels, and I think the music in the game does a really good job of highlighting that with all types of genres of music, but again, it all fitting with that like cyberpunk tone, that like industrial like techno. But I really want to highlight both of those songs because, again, for being original scores for a video game soundtrack, it's like these could have came out just on a normal like album and a normal LP. I don't know if any of you played much of Cyberpunk or were knew much about the music at all.
The only cyberpunk I've experienced is your stream.
Oh, when I was doing some streaming of it.
I am aware of the game, but I haven't really played it. But I am more familiar with the music side of it, and I do think that as far as music goes, it's a really good song for that game.
Yeah, I wasn't familiar with the soundtrack either. And I was always aware of the game, but as far as music went, yeah, I didn't really get to hear much of it, and only from the I want to say the teaser trailer.
Yep.
That song that plays at the very first trailer, that I remember, but everything else, yeah, I didn't really get a chance to hear it.
Yeah, and a lot of the music is definitely normal, like video game, like OST, like non lyrical. That does a really good job. But it is, um, what's kind of the word for it? It's like really good background and setting music. Me and my friends have played some Cyberpunk tabletop, and we're just always dipping to that well of the OTST of that game, just because they knocked it out of the park. For number 5, I have Surviving Mars. And I grabbed 2 songs from it. The first one is At. And this song is like a really kind of long build up. And one of the things why I picked this soundtrack and specifically highlight these songs is Surviving Mars is city builder game. You're obviously like colonizing Mars. You're looking to eventually turn it green. And this music, like every time I start a new game of Surviving Mars and its soundtrack starts to play, it does such a fantastic job of just getting me in this mindset of like, let's do this. Like, this makes me just want to see progress, be successful at making this colony, and just this very like motivational music, which for like a city builder is fairly unique. I'll jump up ahead a little bit to Rockets, which is obviously still from Surviving Mars, but really kind of kicks in that, like, at least for me, like, just gets me in the mood to play a game like this and keep on playing it.
Hey, Filbert, when did this come out again?
Surviving Mars, I want to say was 2018. I would,
Okay, huh?
and it had quite a bit of support. I think they're officially done with it. So, a funny thing or a cool thing about Surviving Mars, the music was such a staple of it that they've done. I believe it's 2 DLCs where they reached out to independent artists to make music for like the radio stations in the game, and they're 2 of the best DLCs I've ever purchased. And they're essentially just radio stations, but they're each are about usually so the one they reached out to, because when you like start a game of Surviving Mars, you pick like where your ship is from, so it can be like the US, China, Russia, Brazil, and that gives like a slight like bonus or modifier. So they reached out, one of the DLCs they reached out and had an independent artist from like all the different countries in the game make a song, and so it's like an international radio station in the game with just really cool music, really cool DLC, and like the DLC, like a lot of that money went back to those artists.
I really like
Oh,
the
that's
music in
cool.
that. That's really cool.
And I lost. There it is. I was gonna say I lost my mouse. And it has quite a bit of a mix-up. These are just my 2 favorite tracks, and I'm kind of a sucker for those like soft build-ups. So number 4 is another essentially city builder, Planet Coaster. And this came out around the same time as Surviving Mars. I didn't play it as soon, but I played it a little bit after. And essentially did everything the music in Surviving Mars did for me, but hit me even more impactful. Like, this is a game where you're building just a theme park. You're building a roller coaster amusement park. And this is the first song you hear when you start up the game and get to the main menu. And much like Surviving Mars, number one, I just love this music. And number two, it just puts me in like such a positive mood to just get in, play the game, and just makes like a creation I'm really impressed with. Because it's a game that's all about customization. You see like in the video here, like when you place a building, you can like completely customize what goes on it. Of course, like how you make the roller coasters, but this song and the rest of the OST in this game is just like the perfect type of sound design to just make me want to build and be creative. And again, I stress like getting like that type of like reaction from essentially like a city builder, I think just says a lot. At least like to me, where I'm just like, some of the most, not like emotional, like is gonna make me cry or something, but like just like get that guttural reaction of like, I just want to make something amazing and just keep playing. This is the type of music that just like pulls that from me, really drives that like inner creativity, like imagination, gets all those like kind of pipes and everything working in my brain. Which I believe I'm probably, I know at least probably more than most of the GameBabes. I'm a big like city builder management type player, but again, I'm not sure if any of you have played this game, heard any of this music, or have any other like city builders that kind of have soundtracks that really like speak to you.
I will go ahead, Shadow.
For me, and this is a brand new game. I never heard it before, and I haven't heard much about him, but I got some little Avinci vibes
All right.
from this soundtrack.
And Pixel.
Yeah, I will say that I've never really been too much into the city builder genre, aside from SimCity on the Super Nintendo, which I played quite a bit of. I have played a lot of RTS games, not necessarily city builder games, but I do know that city builder games, when they have that kind of creative and lively soundtrack, it really gets me interested. So I'm a big music guy, and I love music. And when I hear stuff like that, I'm just like, man, this puts you in a good mood, and it just calms you. And that's that perfect kind of music for a game like that.
So now I get to number 3, and this is probably some of the most nostalgic music to me, and I think it is. So this is definitely like the OST of the game, and we're going to Sims 1. The build mode and buy mode music in this game zaps me back to 2000, 2001. Back when I was like in middle school, me and my friend were playing a ton of Sims 1. And it is such a unique soundtrack. It is. And I know the creators of the soundtrack essentially not quite freestyle. There's like a type of name for it. I think it's like kind of a jazz term, but essentially just started just playing music and they just let it go. And they'll like kind of wrap it back around, but there's no like set structure to any of these tracks. But yeah, the Sims 1 building and buy mode music are just like classic to me. And I don't know if any of you ever played much of original Sims, whether it was on PC or the console ports for the first one.
I personally, I've always seen these types of games, but I've never played one from what I can remember. And not even the music as well. I had no idea it had this kind of like calming, cheerful music as the background. So I'm honestly learning a lot about it.
The funny thing, starting with Sims 2, they started to put actual music in the game from like real bands, but they would make the lyrics Simish. And there's a couple bands I actually learned from because I would hear their music in Sims 2, like on like the radio of the game, and be like, "This is a really good song." And then I'll be like, "It kind of sounds familiar." And then I'll be like, "Oh, it's because it's a real song," but they just put Simish lyrics instead of like the real English lyrics. But
Yeah,
definitely.
I've always.
Oh, go ahead, Pixel.
Sorry. I've had friends who've been interested in The Sims 3 and 4, but the first two, unfortunately, I just don't know too much about. But I love the music. The music is so creative and so lively.
Yeah. And funny enough, the first two just literally re-released yesterday. They just put out remasters.
Oh, nice. Very nice.
The second one is a masterpiece. First one is an amazing game, but the gameplay hasn't aged quite the best. It is definitely a 2000s game. But we'll jump ahead to my number 2. So this, before I get to number 2, this is from a series I had never played before. And this is the 7th installment of the series. And I seen the trailer. I almost had the trailer, but I didn't in my trailer section. But because it was the music from the trailer that pulled me in. And once I started to play this game, I specifically the song Daredevil by Ace Combat 7 just blew me away. Like, this is up there with like Final Fantasy VI, like Dancing Mad, as far as like epic video game soundtrack to me. And it has like a bit of a build up. Does trumpets like really well, and it's just one of those songs that just can convey so much emotion. And generally, like, a type of setting and game that I am not usually like super invested in. Like, I think jets are cool, and I like combat games, but story-wise, there are a lot of times like stories are serviceable for me, but the music in this game, and specifically like, a couple times when this soundtrack comes on during missions, you're just like I'm in. Like, I'm locked in, and this like music is pulling me into this narrative.
Filbert, I don't know if it's just me. Could you turn it up just a little bit?
Oh, yep.
Perfect.
Yeah, I'll jump ahead a little bit. Just. So that is my number 2. I'll. Because I have, I think, basically like the whole soundtrack in there. But yeah, I guess, have any of you, I guess, first off, played Ace Combat 7 or are aware of Daredevil, that specific track?
I know I'm gonna sound like a broken record, but I've never played that one either.
No.
Yeah, same. I know a guy from another community that is super into these games. But that's as far as I know about those.
So I'll jump in and say that I am very familiar with this series, and I love this series. It's had a long history of very incredible gameplay and really good music. In fact, when I was writing my top 5, Filbert and I both had this song in our top 5. And I was very surprised to see. I was like, wow, I honestly did not expect that, because this song is so good to me. But it's edged out just a little bit by one other song. And I still, though, it's just so good, and it's a testament to how good the music in those games is. And it's not just that one song. I mean, Ace
Oh,
Combat
yeah.
7 in specific has so many good ones.
So, and I don't have the time and the offhand knowledge to go over it like in detail, and I forget like the composer's name and stuff, but I know like this game was like in development, and like Pixel was saying, I learned like music has always been like a big aspect of these games, and it was near the end, and the composer for the game was just thinking like he needed like one last epic song, and he like posted a lot of this on Twitter, and essentially like near the end of this game's development, he just like locked down and be like right as the deadline's like, we need like the music and stuff. This game's, getting ready, get packaged to go out the door. He like essentially pulled the soundtrack out from thin air, basically weeks before they're finally like done with the game, and it is just like such again just epic music. And again, for a series that normally I've only played a little bit of earlier Ace Combat games, but never much of them at all. But when I kind of heard the music of that game, it was like one of those games where I'm like, I got to pick this up. This music is just so good. Which gets me to number 1. So I do want to give a little bit of a heads up. So my number 1 is from Baldur's Gate 3. It is like a light spoiler in the game. So I'll kind of give, I know, especially like you, Shadow, a heads up. If you want to like mute this part and just let me know when it's over. But essentially, Baldur's Gate, if you're not aware, RPG game, it is a game where you can go, you can be basically super good, super evil, in between. It's a game all about choices, and your choices matter. So this is essentially the song for a boss battle. That it's not like a final boss or anything, but it's like there's a character in the game that you can work with, you can work against, and you can eventually be like, all right, it can build to where you're gonna eventually like kill this character, and this is that character's boss theme. So, but it It is kind of light spoilers. So I'll leave that up to anyone who has not played Baldur's Gate. If you do not want to listen to the song, I fully get it. I will point out this is the first song probably since Sephiroth's theme in Final Fantasy VII, One Winged Angel, where I like set the I didn't have control. I was playing keyboard, but like I just let my hand off the mouse and keyboard and just like, what is this? This is amazing. And I just had to sit there and just like soak it in for like the first loop of it. So with that said, do you want to listen, Shadow? Because I do know you're a big spoiler about spoilers. Or did you already just mute and go away? I don't hear you if you're talking.
I just unmuted, so I missed everything you said.
Oh.
Purposely.
Oh, all right. So then mute. I'll ping you after this is done.
Sounds good, man.
All right. So we are at Raphael's final act. This is one of the very few songs in the game that has lyrics. And it plays, obviously, and you go to fight Raphael, who is a devil in the game. So no other battle song in the game has lyrics. So like when the fight starts and there's lyrics, you're already like, what is going on? Why is there actually lyrics? And then again, you're fighting a devil, so you have the organ, kind of the choir, very like fitting for the tone. Oh. And then my video, there it goes. And the kicker is Raphael starts singing his own boss theme.
Effect in the cause, curtain falls, but hold your applause. Squirm, squirm, for now down here come the claws.
And for me, I think a big part, because of the song, this fight was more epic than like the final fight in the game. Like this is like one of those moments like playing a game that comes like once in a decade for me.
Brave, brave, but it's all been for naught. True souls that couldn't be bought, doomed, detected, and caught. No more deals, it's over. The final act, you're doomed. No more grace, it's over. This house of hope, you're doomed.
All right. And then, so that is, I will close it so Shadow doesn't see it and ping Shadow real quick so he knows he's good to listen. So we just won't say that character's name. So Shadow won't have.
I'm back.
Yep. So I won't mention like the name or any details, but yeah, that became my like number one song of all time when it comes to like a video game soundtrack. I just everything about it was so epic, so well done, with again being essentially like the only combat song in the game that had lyrics to who was singing them, just how it was done, just literally like kind of blew me away. And and even all that aside, just like that moment in the game was like so epic and such a climax of the end of the game. To have that on top of it was just like the icing to the cake. So I know Pixel, I believe you've played Baldur's Gate.
Yeah, yeah. Actually, when you mentioned to me what game was your number one, I immediately knew what it was, like right away.
Yep,
Because I'm like I without going into too much detail for Shadow, it's just so unique for what it is. Nothing in the game is quite like that, and it's hard to describe the emotional impact it has when it happens. So.
yeah, I know someone who was telling me that when it came on, it's not like a emotional part of the game, but she's like, I started like one of my real life friends were talking about the game, and she's like, yeah, when that song came on, she's like, it made me start to cry. She's like, I don't know why. She's like,
And it's not, yeah.
play the
it's
game,
crazy.
and she's like, why am I crying? Like, this is just so epic.
It's crazy because it's not even really meant to be
Yeah.
emotional. It's just like it hits you because it's just like you're just like, whoa, what is this? I actually thought for a minute, I was like, wait, is my game broken? Oh no, this is normal.
Yeah, and again, I think the closest vibes it gives me is One Wing Angel. Like the first time I heard that during the game, like when that popped in when you're fighting Sephiroth at the end of that game, and you're just like, this is just that music, that song in itself is amazing. You know, fighting Sephiroth at the end of Final Fantasy VII is like amazing and epic, and both those together just was like pinnacle of like storytelling. And thank you for the follow, Bacon. Appreciate it.
Ooh, we got the bacon in the house.
Msmoon, what about you? Have you played or heard of that song at all, or any of the Baldur's Gate 3 music?
No, actually, I that was like one of the first tracks I've heard from Baldur's Gate 3. So I have to say that that was a pretty epic sounding song. I'm very impressed.
Yeah, the way it comes out is like definitely so like when it happens in the game, you're just like, what is happening? Like, why is this going on? Um,
And you said that that's the
you cut out there for a second.
I think her
Think-
PC might have been
Might have shut down, yeah.
Nope.
Yeah.
Oh no.
only
Oh, we
Oh,
kind
she's
of hear
back.
you, but you're super robot. Well, Msmoon hopefully gets that sorted out. For a time, I want to jump into. So I have 3 trailers that I'll show off. Number 3 for me, and I'll jump through this one a bit, but this is To the Moon. The trailer for this game is what I heard so much about this game, and I know I've told you a lot about this game, Pixel.
Absolutely.
So I'd heard a lot about this game. I've finally seen this trailer, and it was what finally sold me. And I was like, I gotta play it. And this trailer itself almost tells, like a little story. It's almost like the prologue is just told through this trailer. And essentially, like the setup to the game is, this old man is dying. There's this company that essentially on your deathbed, they can make you relive an experience in your memory that so you can do something you've never done before. But it's literally the last thing you do before you die. And his thing is he wants to go to the moon. And hello, Lindis. Yes, third episode of the GameBabes podcast between me, Shadow, Pixel, and Msmoon, who I think is having some internet problems and just dropped out. So hopefully she comes back shortly. And this game's OST was, it's one of those games where its OST probably, the only reason it's not in my top 10 is because it is pretty like sad, but like good sad. So it's just like, it's like one of those things where it's like really like beautiful, but it's like I don't want to be like teary-eyed. And you hear some of it now with some of the lyrics. Yeah, I gotta let me fix that real quick, channel. So that is To the Moon. So it has, I know we're so in for Msmoon to get in here, but I believe I'm the only one here who has played it. Has anyone in chat ever played To the Moon? But yeah, so that trailer I think really does an awesome job of just giving you this like prologue. And at least for me, when I seen it, that was, again, I had heard about this game for about probably 2 years about how good it was. And that trailer, I think, was like the foundation for me of like, there is 100% an amazing narrative in here. And I would probably say, hey, Msmoon, I'd probably say that trailer or that game is like top 10 games of all time for me, maybe even top 5. And it's honestly not even much of a game. It's a lot more of an experience, a lot more of almost it is a game, but it's a little bit closer to like a visual novel in a lot of regards. But yeah, are you back with us, Msmoon?
Yes, I am back. Sorry about that.
No, that's all right.
I think I jinxed myself saying, I hope my computer doesn't freeze, and it did.
Welcome back.
Indeed,
Thank
welcome
you.
back.
So I don't know how much of that you caught, but I guess have you ever played To the Moon or know anything of it?
Yeah, I definitely know of it.
All right.
It's been on my list for a long time to get around and play. So yeah, I'm aware of it.
All right. Again, it's one of those games I recommend to everyone. If you like a narrative experience, Bacon, I do not recommend it to you. It is an anti-bacon pancakes game. Next, we're gonna get to my second favorite trailer of all time. And that is specifically the trailer to the Apocalypse DLC for Stellaris. Now, this is a grand strategy game,
like
but I'm gonna just let the trailer play.
Like a lifetime ago. It went by so fast. I need to go, but know that you've been with me every day. Stay strong. Don't be afraid. Everything will be okay. I promise.
Radar detecting large unknown objects.
Know that I did what I could to protect you.
All personnel
south. Man your battle station. Enemy ships approaching. Immediate takeoff.
I solemnly swear to devote my life and abilities in defense of the United Nations of Earth, to defend the Constitution of Man, and to further the universal rights of all sentient life. From the depths of the Pacific to the edge of the galaxy,
Readings are off the scale. What is that thing?
for as long as I shall live.
So that again is a trailer to a grand strategy game, as Vinny likes to call them, the games I just zoom in and out on maps on. And Solaris has been pretty good about always making like they'll do like a cinematic trailer like this and then like a gameplay one. But why this gets my number 2 is for a grand strategy game, a lot of the fun is about kind of crafting your own story, your own goals, because a lot of these games essentially don't have goals. A lot of times, even have like a win condition, and watching a trailer like that makes me just like I want to make a human civilization that is united, trying to just spread good in the galaxy, and have like that type of role play go on. And this was a DLC specifically. It's called Apocalypse. It added essentially like planet busting weapons where it could literally destroy planets and completely whether it was just like essentially kill everyone on the planet to full on like destruction of the planet. And for being a grand strategy game, this trailer just pushes a narrative that really makes me want to play the game mechanically different than I normally would. So that's why it kind of hits my number 2. Again, I don't know if any. I'm assuming I'm kind of like the odd duck here. I don't know if any of you, anyone else who has played Stellaris knows much about it. You might Pixel, because I know you are a fan of Sins, and this is Sins adjacent.
Unfortunately, I haven't played it, but I have seen it a lot. It's actually a game I've considered playing before. I just never quite got around to it, but I might one day.
Yep. And with that, unless if anyone else has anything they kind of want to chime in on this.
Well, it comes like a big surprise, but I haven't heard about or played this.
So with that, we'll get to my number 1 trailer. And this trailer, right before I play it, is number 1 because number 1, I think the trailer itself is fantastic. I'm kind of cheating too because the soundtrack, the theme of this trailer, is like top 5 for me as well for music. But we're just gonna get in the trailer. It's on my music list. And there is a story. It's not even my story, but there was a Reddit post about this trailer months after it came out that I want to touch on. That always has connected to this trailer for me now, and just gives it a deeper human like meaning. And that is a trailer for Civilization 6. So again, another 4X map clicky game, as Vinny likes to call them.
You're plotting a new course again, aren't you?
The currents before us are ever changing. We must adapt and press forward if we are to see our journey's end.
And how will we know when we get there?
It is the nature of humankind to push itself toward the horizon. We test our limits. We face our fears. We rise to the challenge and become something greater than ourselves. A civilization.
Can I just say really quick?
Yep.
That was so good. And also, I know Sean Bean when I hear Sean Bean.
Yep.
That is Sean Bean.
Yep. Sean Bean did all the voices for the quotes in Civ 6. And of course, he dies in the
That
trailer.
sounded familiar.
So,
That was great.
the music in that trailer, I think, is again top 5 video game soundtracks of all themes of all time for me. It tells such a compelling story. I think Civ 6 did a great job of really hitting on humanity and civilization progressing and becoming bigger. So that already is probably like my favorite trailer of all time. But the thing that really makes me a story, someone posted in the Civ Reddit a few months after this game came out was talking about how the trailer made them bawl like a baby. And essentially this lady who, judging by her post, she's probably like in her 50s. She talks about how she was born in 61. So yeah, she would have been like in her 50s when this game released. She talks about she's born in 61 and she became obsessed with the Apollo space program and wanted to be an astronaut. And her whole life she was told she couldn't because she was a girl. She couldn't because she was a girl. And the only person who never told her that was her dad, who, unfortunately, he did 3 tours in Vietnam, became like a heroin addict. He eventually beat it, but she goes on about how even after he came back from Vietnam, he got her like a telescope and they watched the moon landing. And she's like, when I was 8 years old, she's like, I could have swore I seen like the module and stuff. She was watching it with her dad in the backyard. So obviously for her, that trailer is like super touching because, you know, it ends with the woman in the rocket looking at like the picture of her dad. So it's a very like touching Reddit post. So I'll put it in chat. But then you had Peter Murray, who's the producer of the game, comment and being like, we've seen this, like, this is awesome. We love it. And she talks about, you know, she eventually like tried to join the Air Force. They told her like women can't be astronauts. And like she got into like riding motorcycles and whatnot. And then the composer of the soundtrack to that, Christopher Tin, replied to her directly. And basically talks about how like her story was like so touching to him, and that when he composed that soundtrack, it's only the second time he's ever actually cried making music. The other one being Baba Yete, which is a famous song from Civilization 6 that he composed. But basically like opens up about how like touching it is reading this account, which he then replies to him talking about how Baba Yete, she actually attributes, like she kind of geeked out because Christopher replied to her, geeks out because Baba Yete, she attributes like saving her life. Very long story. Her partner, she got cancer, terminal 4. They basically went like belly up in income, but her partner bought her a copy of Civ 4 when she was doing all the cancer treatment. And she talks about like hearing the music from that game, like just really touched her in a way that kind of kept her going, especially after her partner passed. But because of that trailer, and when that person posted that story on Reddit, like I can't help but see that trailer and just connect it with knowing that there's people out there like that. Her Reddit username is called I Murder Pineapples. People like I Murder Pineapples that like music and art, whether it's like a movie, music, or video game can really have such a strong impact on people, and it just makes that trailer special to me, just knowing that story. And again, I recommend going to click that Reddit post and reading it. It is I think very like touching and kind of heartwarming. But that is um my top three trailers, my top music. I guess before I know I've ate up a lot of time. I didn't mean to eat up this time much time, but yeah, I guess anyone's thoughts about the Civ 6 trailer or anything anyone wants to touch on before we jump to who's next?
I found it very touching and inspirational. And how the cuts, the edits where you go from time era to a time era. I think it was magnificent done.
Yeah, it was really well done, and it just shows how much of an impact video games can have um, on an individual. It it's always different depending on the person, so it's always interesting to hear those kinds of stories because it just affects people in a different way.
I think I'm gonna go back and watch that because there were segments in that trailer that depicted very important moments in history that were so impactful, and it's also personal too. For a lot of these people, it's personal, and it's so good at showing you, like, getting you emotionally involved. Even though a lot of us, of course, weren't there for that, we can see these course of events that occurred at one point in time and be like, wow, this was such a powerful moment in history. And it's doing that, it's splicing it up in multiple segments, and it's so cool.
And again, a thing that really kind of hits me too, it's like this is a game where you're playing at the widest scope possible. You're controlling a civilization. You're not controlling like people. There's no like narrative other to the game other than what you're doing. So it's almost like the music when I bring up the joke songs. It's like this trailer for a 4X game. Like, how is it this good? Like, this is like the type of trailer I expect for going to play a very narrative game, like a BioShock or something. That like the narrative's like half the reason I'm into the game. And yeah, because of that, it just has always left that like extra. It has that extra layer of impact because it's like it's so much easier to just kind of phone this in, but they just knocked it out of the park with the storytelling.
Yeah, I'm definitely going to go back and watch that again. Probably a few times, actually. I really like that.
And Civ 7 comes out this month too. The trailer to Civ 7's good, but not as good as 6. But yeah, who I would like to kind of go next? Or I can do it random if no one wants to pull the trigger, but is anyone itching to talk about their
Let's have some chaos and do random.
random? All right.
I'm up for random.
That sounds fun.
I gotta have. All right, I'll roll a 6-sided dice. Msmoon will be 1 and 2. Shadow will be 3 and 4, and Pixel will be 5 and 6. And we got 6. So Pixel, you're up.
All right. Okay, so I want to preface this by saying it could have been an easy choice to choose Final Fantasy soundtracks. I deliberately did not do that because I don't want to kind of be monotonous. I wanted to have some variation here. I also wanted to focus mostly on music because even though I do like trailers, and there are some that I do really enjoy, they don't really act as trailers. They're more like gameplay videos. They're gameplay demonstrations. Trailers themselves, I mean, I've liked them, but I've never really had like a really big affinity for trailers generally. So for me, I just kind of picked one that I liked, and I stuck mostly with music. So again, I just kind of want to focus on having sort of a pretty diverse set of songs here. I mean, you guys know me. I could have picked Final Fantasy, but I wanted to do something a little bit different here. So my number one, though, I will say though, to just to jump in, my number one is probably a very predictable one, because if you spend any amount of time with me on the Discord, you know me very well. You know that my favorite is Final Fantasy VI, and of course that is going to be my number one. And for a lot of the music here, I also want to say that what I'm going to do is just kind of talk about, kind of give context to some of the songs before listening to them in full. I don't want to take up too much time, but I want the songs to play in full so that you can kind of like hear them as they are. Some of these games you may know, some of them you may not, but these are ones that I really kind of sat and deliberated over for the past few days and really had to think about it. I'm just going to kind of get my number one out of the way because, again, everybody's already familiar with this, and it's not really a surprising one. Go ahead, Filbert.
Oh, I was going to say, you want to start with number one?
Yeah, let's do that.
Right.
Let's just get that out of the way because I think it's a pretty easy one for me. Everything else that's going to be on this list, anywhere from 2 to 5, they can kind of switch up from day to day. So right now, this is just kind of how I feel about them in this moment. But a lot of these other songs tend to kind of shift around a lot, just depending on the day. So right now, I'll just go with number one.
All right.
And this is going to be Final Fantasy VI's Terra.
All right, and I'll hit play.
I don't know if it's in the Discord here. Yep, here it is. Perfect. Cool. So yeah, pretty much everybody knows that song. I mean, you know, we're all part of the Game Dave stream and Discord, so we all know Final Fantasy pretty well. And for me, that was my first Final Fantasy, and obviously one of the first songs that you hear on that game, and that one really hit me. I think it just kind of encompasses the concept of exploration and self-identity, as well as understanding yourself. And I think that it's just such a perfect encapsulation of that.
Yeah, I can't agree more. And for me, when it comes to like a world map and you're walking around an RPG, it's always between this and of course Final Fantasy VII's like world map theme. And there's like things I like a lot about each of them, where it's always hard for me to rank like which one do I like a little bit more. But yeah, such a fantastic uh soundtrack.
What about you, Msmoon or Shadow? Do you guys have any ties to it or any opinions on it?
Do I have any ties to it?
There you go.
Excuse me, do you know who you're talking
lay
with?
it on me.
Where do I start? I am so glad you picked that one as one of your top favorites, because to me, the intro of any JRPG needs to start with a strong track to kind of get you in that mindset to get ready for the journey you're about to embark on. And Final Fantasy VI, starting with Terra's theme, has to be one of the strongest, because everything that you said describing it is perfect to a T, because it is about self-identity. It is about that journey that they're about to take to find out more about themselves, where they're going. And it just gives you this scope of adventure that I feel like is important for JRPGs when they start and kind of pull you in. So for me, 6 has one of the strongest in my opinion.
Yeah, it's for me, it's just one that, I mean, it stuck with me for so long, and I mean, so many games have kind of come and gone, you know, as I've grown older, and this is just one that, for me, it's really hard for any game to top as my number one. This one just still remains my number one. It is what it is. What do you think, Shadow?
Well, when I played this, I just stopped and just listening to it. And even months after I beaten the game, I found myself humming to the song. Like, just doing random stuff like do 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 do. This was in my head like so long after I beat it, and I love this song. And you have described it so perfectly.
All right, let's go on to the next one that we have here.
All right.
That's going to be number 2.
All right.
And number 2 is from a game called Terranigma. Terranigma is the story of a mischievous boy who lives in a village called Krista in the underworld. One day he finds and opens Pandora's box, and his entire village becomes frozen. All the people in it become frozen. The elder of the village, who's the only other person who is unfrozen, tells him that in order to unfreeze everybody, he has to resurrect all living beings in the overworld of the earth or the planet. First the plants, then the animals, and then the humans. He also has to help humanity grow into a state of maturity by expanding the cities and towns, inventing technology, things like that. But without spoiling too much, major plot twists happen that kind of catch you off guard. But the game is very smart about how it ties in the idea of death and rebirth into the game's world and their characters. The reason I chose this song is because when you beat the game and you understand the story in full, this song, it's the theme of your home village at the beginning of the game, it instantly becomes more somber, melancholic, and meaningful. Because as soon as you finish the game, you're like, wow, now I get why they chose this song.
All right. Ready for me to hit plate?
Go for it. So something I think is really interesting about that one is you hear that song at first and you think, okay, this is a cool village song. It's
Yeah.
nice and calming and relaxing and doesn't sound like a whole lot is going on, but yeah, it's good, right? And you don't really think much of it at first. But again, without spoiling too much, you hear this again at the end of the game, and you're just like, oh my God, this is so sad. Like, it's so much sadder than I thought it was. Um, this game, again, I don't want to spoil too much, but this game is the game that has made me cry the most, more than any other game. And it's a really emotional journey for the main character and for the people involved. And it's just this really kind of it's just so encompassing of like how the main character goes through this journey of like self-discovery but also selflessness, like this idea of like being a mischievous person and then changing to becoming a very selfless kind of a helpful person, all while basically doing it for other people.
Yeah, I don't think I've ever actually even heard of this game before, so I'll definitely have to put it on my list to check out. Um, so I'm assuming it's a Super Nintendo.
Yeah, it's a
Yeah.
Super Nintendo title. It came out in, I think, 1995, so the same year as Chrono Trigger. It has really beautiful art, really beautiful pixel art. It's part of the Quintet trilogy. So if you've played Soul Blazer or Illusion of Gaia, this is the final game in that trilogy. You may not think that they really have much to do with each other because they're all pretty self-contained games, but they're considered part of that trilogy.
Well, yeah, I'm definitely interested just to know because I think that is a very intriguing concept of having what is your typical like soundtrack for a village town in a game, but having it kind of get flipped and get like a whole new meaning. It like that alone is so intriguing. It just makes me want to definitely check out that game.
Yeah, it's interesting because you don't need the context of the first and second game to play this. This one is entirely standalone. You can enjoy it as is, and it's such a melancholic game on its own, even though it really doesn't feel like it. It feels like an adventure game, but like as the game progresses, you're like, man, there are things that happen here that are just really sad, and you don't really think much of it, but as the main character revives the plants and the animals and the humans, it's like, man, this is like really, really impactful. And you just don't think about it, but it just hits you anyway.
All right. Well, anyone else have thoughts about that soundtrack or kind of the played? Has anyone played that game?
It's on my wish list.
All right.
I haven't gotten around to get a copy yet.
Yeah, I'm aware of it. I've heard a lot about it and how profound it is, but I never personally played it yet.
I will say that this game is somewhat rare and it is very expensive. There was a UK release for this game. There was a German release for the game, and there was an Australian release as well as a Japan release. We never actually got it here in the West, or at least in the United States or Canada. So the game itself is pretty expensive. I don't know if you can get maybe flash carts or I don't know, maybe even duplicate, not dupes. What's the
Uh,
term I'm thinking of? Like fake carts.
Reproduction.
Repros. Yeah.
Repro.
Yeah.
Yeah,
There you
it's
go.
it
Yeah.
was in my head, but
I
as
was
it's like I
thinking,
don't know
yeah.
the term. You just punched it right out.
Yeah. So repro. Okay.
Yeah.
So yeah, you could do a repro if I don't know if they work too well or how they work, but you could go with one of those. And if not, again, like a flash cart, you could also just emulate it. Software emulation would work great. But either way, I really recommend that anyone try this game. It's just such a good experience. It's kind of like the hidden gem, and I mean this like for real, not just like the Metal Jesus Rocks hidden gem. I mean, it's an actual hidden gem. This is a really good game.
All right. Well, yeah, I think a lot of people are definitely interested in checking that out now.
Welcome, Vinny. All right, so let's see. I'm going to go on to number 3. And again, all of these can change. Just they all depend on the day. Except for number 1, that's pretty much always going to be my number 1. So the next one is going to be from Halo Combat Evolved. I don't know if anybody here has played that game, but I played this game when it came out. There's not really much to say about it. This song usually plays during intense or exhilarating moments of the game. But it's just got this very simplistic but also very energetic feeling to it. Whenever you're going through missions in the game, you kind of get this like, I don't know, you get this like feeling inside you where you're like, man, this is like really exhilarating. Like it's exciting and it like pumps you up. It's called The Gun Pointed at the Head of the Universe.
All right, let's start it.
All right.
All right.
Yeah, so that one, like I said, that just kind of plays during very exciting or exhilarating moments in the game, and it really gets you pumped up. You're kind of exploring this almost like an alien artifact, this giant ring in space, and you don't know what to expect. You don't know what's around the next corner, but it's got this very mysterious but also very exciting feel to it, and it fits perfectly. Like, I mean, as far as atmosphere goes, it just lays it on thick, and it's perfect.
I guess I played and beat the first Halo uh once or twice, and I've played quite a bit of Halo. Not I've never been like a big Halo head, but I I know like the classic like intro music. Um but I probably have heard that song a lot of times. I guess I've never just sat down to appreciate Halo music because for the most part, it's almost like listened to it for the first time there. I didn't necessarily recognize it, even though I definitely have had to have heard it before. But yeah, really, really good song.
It's good stuff. And I noticed that Mark, Big Mark mentioned in the chat that it's something that he would think of when you're in a jungle.
Yep.
And that's right. Actually, there are moments in the game where you are in a jungle. and you would have that be playing in the background. In fact, toward the end of one of the missions where you're in a jungle, you hear that song. Shadow, Msmoon, have you two played Halo before, or are you familiar with it?
I have only played Halo 4 with a friend. That's the only experience I have with this franchise. But if rumors are to be true, I will have more experience with it in the future.
Awesome.
Yeah. Around when the first Halo came out, I never played it because I never owned an Xbox in my life, actually. I was always in my little PlayStation corner. So while everybody else was, playing Halo and getting hyped over that, um, I kind of missed the boat on the popularity of Halo. But the thing I do like about the soundtrack is even if you've never played the game before in your life, when you hear the music, you know what series that's from.
You know it.
It's
Yep.
iconic at this point.
Yeah, Big Mark also mentioned earlier that main title screen is also really good. That would have been a very easy one to go with.
Yeah.
But I did feel that pretty much everybody knows what that is, and I thought, well, you know what? Let's go with something different. I still want to stick with the Halo theme, but this one really stands out to me. Even though it's just so simple and it almost sounds like so basic, it's just exhilarating to me. I still love it. All right, the next one that we have. So I really love this game a lot. A very touching game. It's called Xenogears. I don't know who here has played Xenogears, at least in full. It's a very long game.
I have, but it's been since the 90s, and I can't tell you one thing about it other than what the art looks like.
Mm.
I am intimidated by Xenogears because it looks so deep. I feel like I wouldn't be able to comprehend it.
Yeah, making the OG one from
Yeah, this is the
PlayStation 1.
PS1 game. Yep. How about you, Shadow?
No, the only games I played is Xenoblade Chronicles 1 and X.
Well, Xenogears, this one, you're probably going to notice a theme in some of my music choices, but this one is the story. Well, basically, the story for this game, it's long and complicated, so I'm not going to get into it. But this is the ending credits song for the game, and it represents love between two main characters and their willingness to find each other after numerous reincarnations. I think that that's such an awesome concept. And again, you'll notice a theme of kind of death and rebirth in a lot of the songs that I like. Again, Pheonix, right? So that's just kind of a common theme with a lot of the stuff that I like. And I think this song for Xenogears is a perfect representation of that. This one is called Small Two of Pieces. The name might be a little bit strange, but it's a very, very good one. Let's go ahead. Let's get it going.
All right.
And I should say, this has lyrics. So this is the only lyrical one, I think. I'm sorry, no, the second one, the last one that I've got does have lyrics too, so. Oh, Filbert, we can pause it if you want. Oh, looks like people are on ads at the moment.
Oh, yeah. Let's wait. Let us know when ads are over. I don't know how long they
Because
run.
I'm in an ad as well. So. Sorry for the interruption, everybody. I know it's kind of really poor timing.
Oh,
If you have Amazon Prime, you have Prime Gaming. Intent.
we
Very true.
locked you in.
Very true. You know, speaking of ads, I gotta say, I switched over from the Chrome browser to Vivaldi recently, because Chrome recently disabled uBlock Origin. But on top of that, there are a lot of things about Chrome that I don't particularly like. So I gotta say though, Vivaldi is something else. It's a good browser.
Damn Firefox gang.
There you go. All right, so I am back. How about everybody else?
Assume they should all be about done. Kick it back on.
As passion burns in your heart, ready to fight, a knife held close by your side, like a proud wolf alone in the dark, with eyes that watch the world, and my name like a shadow on the face of the moon.
Shadow gonna call out.
Broken mirror,
Yeah, right.
million shades of light. The old echo fades away, but just you and I can find the answer, and then we can run to the end of the world. We can run to the end of the world. Cold fire clings to my heart in the blue of night. Torn by this pain, I paint your name in sound. And the girl of the dawn with eyes of blue and angel wings. The songs of the season are her only crown. Broken mirror, a million shades of light. The old echo fades away, but just you and I can find the answer, and then we can run to the end of the world. We can run to the end of the world.
That guitar solo.
I know, right? Good.
We're
Alright, so
Pixel with
that's
another banger.
yeah, so that's Xenogears' closing credits song. Um, just with that game, that game is also very, very emotional as well. There are so many songs in that game that just hit so hard. There's a song in the game that is actually the same song, but in music box form, and you never actually hear the ending credit song, obviously, until the end, but when you do, it has so much more meaning. Has anyone here played Xenogears, familiar with it? I think I might have asked that
Yeah,
already, but
yeah.
if I did, what do you think?
Like I said, I did way back in the '90s with my brothers. Um, it's one of those games I don't. It's one of those games I was young enough when I was so young when I was playing it. Most of the concepts were going over my head. I was able to follow like Final Fantasy VII back then, but I remember Xenogears just kind of checking out and just being like, all right, like there's cool stuff going on, but it was kind of a little bit too far beyond me to kind of comprehend at probably 7 or 8 at the time. But I 100% need to go back and play it. Especially, I haven't thought about the music or anything of that game. I always think about the art. I remember the art just standing out to me, but with a soundtrack like this, I need to rush that to the front of my backlog.
And Pixel, do you know who wrote that theme song? Because it sounds like something Yasunori Mitsuda would write.
You are on the money. That's exactly it.
That is.
Yasunori Mitsuda. Yeah, Yeah, he wrote that.
I thought so because it sounded like and I know about this, but he wrote another theme song for Xenosaga.
He
And
did,
we
and
can,
he did
yeah.
Xenoblade as well.
Okay, I was like, huh, this is nice. This is familiar. I know who this is.
Yeah, that was written by Yasunori Mitsuda, but it was sang by Joanne Hogue, and they've actually held concerts where they've sang that song before, much like a lot of the Final Fantasy music that they've played before, which is really cool.
Oh, that's awesome.
What about you, Shadow?
Still haven't played it for the last time you asked me. But
Well, I mean, of the song itself, what do you think?
like I said in chat, I thought this was one of the best songs we heard all night so far.
I think the only thing that I would count against Xenogears, and I don't want to drag it on too long, is that the game can be a little bit complicating. I think there's a lot going on it. But if you stick with the idea of these two characters kind of constantly meeting each other and constantly falling in love over and over, that's kind of the overarching story of the game. All right. Okay, so last one that I have is going to be from Ace Combat 5. And I know that Filbert chose one from Ace Combat 7, but the one that I've got here is from 5. I changed my mind on this one this morning because I'd been sitting on it last night and I was thinking about it, thinking, do I want to go with 7 and specifically Daredevil, or do I want to go with this one? I don't know. I'm going to sit and think on it. So when I woke up this morning, I thought, you know what? I'm going to go with this. I'm sorry, that was actually, well, it was yesterday, but that's besides the point. So this song is called The Unsung War. And just to provide a little bit of context about this song, basically, during the very last mission of Ace Combat 5, you are sent to shut down an object known as the Strategic Orbital Linear Gun. It's a weapon satellite that's being controlled by an opposing faction in another country, but it's up in space. Basically, you and your team destroy the control system in enemy territory, but you learn that that satellite has a built-in failsafe. Its navigational systems activate when the control system is destroyed. And what it does is it initiates a collision course with the capital of your home country. The satellite is also carrying nuclear payloads, which are intended to be launched at multiple different individual targets once it's close enough. So essentially, what's happening is you're racing against time to stop the satellite from plummeting into the Earth. And when you do, this song plays. The lyrics of the song reflect the theme of being reborn that your squadron experiences. They were originally seen as fugitives and later come to be seen as heroes. So again, this is called the Unsung War.
All right, here it goes.
right. So you can kind of imagine what that is like when you and your team are basically trying to shoot down a massive satellite that's plummeting into the earth with nuclear weapons, and that's playing in the background, and there all this chaos is happening. You're shooting parts off the satellite, debris is falling toward you, you're trying to avoid it while shooting it down. It's really cool.
Yeah, um, definitely is gonna pull like the epicness, because it's the same thing with Ace Combat 7 with Daredevil. Like when that comes on, specifically in that last mission, it's like, all right, it's on. Like we're we're locked in, and you're dealing with just that epic final little mission battle. I gotta ask, because you've played a lot of the Ace Combat series, Pixel.
Yeah.
So is it a common trope that are a criminal, become a criminal, and like get redemption, or is that just kind of between
Kind
5
of.
and 7?
No, it's kind of a common theme that
Right.
essentially you are somebody that's kind of unimportant or a criminal or something like that, and you redeem yourself. And it's also a common theme that they'll have songs like this where you'll have these kind of regular battles or these missions that are sort of unimportant missions, and then these really epic battles that happen, like things build up and lead up to these really awesome missions and these really cool songs. So that's a pretty common theme in Ace Combat games.
But yeah, I guess everyone else thoughts on that song specifically.
That might be my favorite one so far. I
Oh,
love
Really?
epic. Yeah, I love those kinds of epic, like this is it, it's all or nothing type orchestrated tracks where it just feels so bombastic. I love that. So I feel like I'm missing out now on Ace Combat with all these tracks.
I don't know how easy it is to play the other ones, but 7 I highly recommend, even if you're not into like jet games. Uh, they're pretty arcadey, so you can like pick them up. But the story and music of 7 for me, it just blew me away. It was more than I was expecting.
Yeah, I would say the ones that have really good stories tend to be Ace Combat 0, Ace Combat 4, and Ace Combat 5 and Ace Combat 7. Those are kind of seen as sort of among the top as far as Ace Combat games go. Ace Combat 6 is not really too accessible, but that's okay because you can kind of, for the most part, skip that one anyway. It's still got good music and good missions, but I wouldn't say it's kind of up there. But I would definitely say at least 0, 4, and 5 because they're not accessible. If you can find a way to play those, definitely play those.
Oh, nice. Okay.
I also will say too, all Ace Combat games generally do have a little bit of a learning curve because it takes some time to get acclimated to the controls itself. It's still arcadey, it's not sim-like, but it takes a while to kind of get used to. But yeah, I mean they're great games. They're awesome games, and like I said, they're all kind of like that. They have this bombastic, exciting music, and it gets you pumped. 4, 0, 5, they all have missions like this where it's really exciting and all like super high stakes, but I think between them all, this one is really just my favorite. I mean, they're all so good, but this one just is the top.
Yeah, not to go on a tangent, but it just if I knew where to find it real quick, I'd share it. But it just I seen a meme because I used to play. I haven't played much in a while, but IL-2, which is like a World War II like very simulation game, fighter jet. Well, not jet. They're prop planes. But there's just like a meme of like someone posted of playing IL-2, like IL-2 players compared to like Ace Combat players, and it was just like this like long stretch of just flying the plane, and then you drop a single bomb and then you fly away, and then it cuts to like Ace Combat where it's just like shooting like 50 missiles, dodging, doing all these.
Yeah.
And it's like I feel personally attacked.
It's so funny because Ace Combat 7's Daredevil mission is exactly like that. It's like you're getting missile alarms like crazy because drones are flying everywhere, and you're like, oh my god, there's so many, I can't shoot them all down, and you can't even destroy the main bird that's dispersing them all, and you're thinking, oh my god, this is hopeless, I'm not going to win. And then things just kind of turn around and turn in your favor, and you're like, all right, here we go, the music is playing, I'm pumped, let's do this. Anyway, so yeah, those are my top 5.
Yeah,
and
IL2 Stormavok Bacon. Yeah. Oh yeah, but yeah, if you want to, you have your one trailer.
yeah, so like I said, those are my top 5. I've already kind of chewed up a lot of time, longer than I wanted to take, but as far as the trailers go, I've only got the one trailer. This is going to be the Halo 3 E3 2006 announcement trailer. This one for me, I really like, because I feel like even if you haven't played Halo, it kind of builds you up to the third game and kind of getting you excited for the third game. I think a lot of folks probably are familiar with it here, but if you aren't, this is your chance to see it. So this is the one that I chose. I feel like it's probably the most accessible and probably the easiest one to really relate to, even if you haven't played the game. All right, here we go.
I am your shield. I am your sword. I know you. Your past. Your future.
This is the way the world ends.
All right, so there it is. That trailer is representing the conclusion to the Halo trilogy. Initially, it was not really planned as a trilogy, but Bungie really only intended to make 3 games for Halo, and that was supposed to be their last one. Of course, that didn't really happen, and they ended up kind of losing the license a little bit after that. And there's a whole history to it. But point is, when that trailer came out, at the time, this is 2006, and you're thinking, okay, this is the last in the trilogy, basically, and that got me really excited. I remember seeing that and thinking, wow, this is like, it's pumping up the emotions, it's getting you excited, it's getting you hyped. What's this huge structure in the background? Why is it opening up? Oh my god, why is there a storm? Is the world ending? What is happening? And you're just like, you're so confused, but you're also like, dang, I have to know what this is.
Yeah, it's one of those trailers that like intrigued me. So I was kind of like Msmoon. I did not have a 360 or an Xbox. Well, at that point, yeah, it was 360. Went for 3. So I didn't have either. I got through 6 like late in its life cycle, so I missed out on a lot of that Halo. When it was really in like the talk and the culture, other than essentially playing like multiplayer at friends. But I was always so intrigued by the story and the cinematic trailers like that, and seeing stuff like that like would get me amped. But back then, I would almost have to like pull myself back because I'm like, well, I can't realistically play this, so don't. I had to control getting too excited for it.
No, I totally understand. It was one of those things where it's like if you're in the Xbox ecosystem, you were probably exposed to it. If you
Yep.
were not, you probably weren't. And that's okay. I do think that the games still hold up today. I do think that maybe there's a little bit of jank sometimes with at least the first and second game. They've kind of got their issues, but the third game still holds up as being very polished, and I think it's still a very good game.
Yeah, I do know. Yeah, the stories get pretty like complex in some instances, but yeah, that just the whole when Halo was popping off, especially 2 and 3, the lead up to both those games and like those E3 announcements were just something else. Like again, even as someone who wasn't in that ecosystem, I couldn't help but be like still excited in some regard because I'd at least play at my friends. But yeah, that trailer I think is like the for being like the because you said that was like the E3 announcement trailer.
Yeah, that was the E3 2006 announcement trailer.
Yeah, so and that's like like such a fun way to do an announcement where it's giving you just a little bit, showing you, of course, like the main character come on screen, and I think before you actually get the gameplay trailers or like the more narrative story trailers, that's the type of thing. If you're a fan, like you're gonna eat up.
Yeah, and the interesting thing about it is, and I don't want to take too much more time, but back then, this is Bungie really in its prime. They were so transparent with their player base and sharing with them video documentaries and all this information on their webpage at the time. I mean, this is before social media like, Facebook and Twitter and all that kind of stuff. Like we had MySpace, but really this was their way of getting that information out, was showing it at E3 and putting it on their website and being like, hey, this is what we've worked on with the game, and we're taking player feedback, we're answering questions. There's so much surrounding Halo as a series at that time that really made it special, and Bungie really was kind of the main component of that. They were the ones that really allowed it to be what it is, and to allow it to have that kind of legacy.
All right, and with that, unless if Shadow or Msmoon, you have anything to add about that trailer specifically?
I do not, except it was a good trailer.
Yeah, I can imagine being a Halo fan at the time would be very exciting. But I don't think I've seen this one before. I was too busy playing GameCube and DS, I assume.
Well, I think with that, we can leave it up to a random chance again. I'll roll this D20 again. Odd will be Shadow, even will be Msmoon. And we have 4. So, Msmoon, would you like to talk about your music or trailers first?
Let's start with trailers first, if that's okay.
Yep. And do you want to start
Oh.
from your 5 up to 1 or 1 down to 5?
Oh, let's do 1 to 5.
All right, 1 to 5.
Yeah. So I'm gonna start off with the first trailer, which is Final Fantasy 15, the Omen trailer that came out in 2016. And what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna let it play first, and then I'll go into a little backstory as to why I chose it. So
All right, I'll kick it off.
To crown the King of Light is the calling of a crystal. Only the true king, anointed by the crystal, can purge our star of its scourge. Chosen. Yes. I guess I can do it. I won't let you down. I know you won't.
How many must die before you are satisfied?
I have seen many deaths, but now I'm only looking forward to one. And then I can rest.
He will take responsibility, you know.
As must we all.
May the gods forgive me.
All right.
Alrighty then. I don't know how many times I've looked at that trailer. I
It's
that has
good. It's
it
very
is
good.
excellent. And I want to start off by saying I love Final Fantasy 15. It's a very flawed game, but I appreciate what they were able to come up with throughout its 10-year development cycle. And the reason why I chose this trailer in particular, because starting back from the very first trailer that came out in 2006 during E3, which wasn't that when the Halo 3 trailer came
Yep.
out for you? So okay, so while while you were looking at that, they unveiled the very first like teaser trailer for what was then it was called Versus 13.
Versus 13, that's right. Yep.
Yeah, and when I saw that, I was on board immediately. Like at that age, that felt like this is the Final Fantasy I've been wanting for a long time now. It's grittier, it's darker looking. It has Tetsuya Nomura written all over it. So I was excited. And so throughout the 10-year cycle, um, things kept getting delayed, directors were changed, and then it eventually became 15. And at that point, even though I was still excited for it, I was it didn't have that same kind of feel that Versus 13 did. So I was worried what the final product was going to end up looking like. And so fast forward to I want to say about a month or so before it officially released in November 2016, they dropped this trailer. Um, and when this trailer dropped, a lot of us were looking at this thinking, this felt like Versus 13 again. Like, I think we're good now, guys. I think the waiting for 10 years is worth it. They got their act together. It's gonna work. And I can't fully articulate how excited everybody was like those last 2 months before it released. Um, they just felt like after seeing this that it finally felt like what it was originally going to be. Now, granted, um, it didn't quite end up that way, but it was still a good game nonetheless with all its flaws. But at the time when I saw this trailer, I that was all I could think about leading up to the release was like finally, because 10 years is a long time, and a lot happens during that time. So there was a lot of not only ups and downs during the development cycle, but like for me personally. So
Yeah, this one
all
had a very complicated development history for sure.
yeah,
Yeah, I'd
absolutely.
actually never seen this trailer of 15. I had kind of fallen off Final Fantasy at that point, and
Oh yeah.
I have tr- I've played 15 twice. Each time I probably have got like 20 hours in. And my thing is like I really like the story, but the gameplay just I just have some issues with, and I always kind of get kind of burn out, unfortunately. But I do need to actually just truck through that game one day.
Yeah, I would say now that like the Royal Edition of 15 and all the DLC are out, I think it would be a good time to jump in now that they're done with everything. It was a lot different when you were getting it like piece by piece. It didn't feel as complete as it should have been.
But yeah, definitely like that's the type of trailer that I love to see, especially for a video game I'm excited for. It just is cinematic. It definitely is portraying like a bunch of like metaphors with
Yeah.
everything going on in it, and it gets me. If I would have seen that, I would have probably been like really amped. I was excited when 15 came out because it's like the first one in a while that really is like, all right, I'm kind of back into Final Fantasy. Let's try this. But yeah, I actually wish I would have seen that when it first was unveiled.
Oh yeah. Yeah, I mean that was a fun time. Everybody was for that brief moment, everybody felt like Final Fantasy was back in form. But yeah, but that's the Omen trailer.
All right.
I guess we can move on to number 2, which is the Parasite Eve trailer. Uh which was on a PlayStation Magazine demo disc in 1998. And um, apologies for some of the video quality. It's not that great, but
Oh no.
it's nostalgic.
Yeah. All right, here it goes. Yeah, this is gonna take me back. My brothers were huge into Parasite Eve.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah, I was always petrified of it. I never
Oh,
played it.
Parasite Eve. I love this game. So good.
Millions of years ago, the mitochondria began to live silently within our bodies. It seems that the parasites have only to live among us. Or do they?
I gotta say that brings back. I forgot about that T-Rex. I remember thinking that was awesome, and that rat from like because that
Oh,
happens in the opening.
Yep.
Like when I would have been like 8 or something. That just always traumatized me watching the video of that rat just to form into the monster rat. I, I
it-
I never played this game. I'd kind of watch my brothers play it, but I'd be like, this game is too much for me.
It's pretty
right?
crazy because at the time, like this is one of Square's earliest like 3D games, and you're like, okay, Final Fantasy VII is out, but then also this game is out, and
Yeah.
this game looks way more gruesome, and you're
Oh
just
yeah.
like, oh my god, they're showing this in a game.
Right. I mean, from the opera house to the rat, I was so traumatized watching this in the dark,
Same.
but
Yep.
I was so fascinated. Like, I gotta play this game. What is this?
Yep.
Um, because I know we talked in Discord a couple of days ago about which generation had the biggest leap, and for me, jumping to the PlayStation, this is one of the perfect examples of what felt like a big leap to me. It wasn't just graphically, but it was these concepts they were starting to explore with horror, for example, the stories that they were telling. For me, that's when it felt like a big leap to me because even though we were already telling, great stories from the SNES and on backwards, there were good stories, but now they were starting to become more layered, more cinematic, for lack of a better word.
Yeah.
And more dynamic. And so at that young age, I was just floored at what I was seeing. And so this game actually started my love of like psychological horror games in general. Because from there, I went straight to Silent Hill, those types of games, and never looked back.
Yeah,
So
young Msmoon was the opposite of young Filbert. I was just I was just like, keep those games away from me.
I think that says something about me that I was drawn to it rather than repulsed.
But I never had I don't, again, won't go on a tangent, but I never had a choice. My brother's like, no, these are the games we're buying, or these are the movies we're watching, and I'm like, crap, I gotta just suffer through the torment.
Right. And I will say too, two things. Yoko Shimomura, the way she writes music had a big influence on what made that trailer work for me because it's so mysterious and kind of scary at the same time, but it still draws you in. Um, but another thing I wanted to point out, I don't know if any of you knew about this, but Final Fantasy VII, one of the original story ideas was to have a detective story set in New York, um, going after eco-terrorists, and that got scrapped. And I think some of those elements got moved over to Parasite Eve, which they're in New York, and they just changed it a little bit because it's actually based on a Japanese novel called Parasite Eve. But the idea of being a detective in New York was considered for the first Final Fantasy VII plot.
I did not know that.
Yeah, I thought that was interesting, and
That'd
it
be
kind of
so weird
makes
to have a Final Fantasy set like in the world, like in the Earth, like in our
so
universe.
weird. Oh man, that'd be so weird. But yeah, that's one of my most nostalgic trailers. So I had to show that one.
It's interesting you mentioned that because Xenogears was initially going to be FF7 as well. It initially was
Yeah.
that's what it was initially written as, and then of course they kind of splintered off and made their own thing with a different team. But yeah, that's very, very, very similar concept.
It's very interesting. I forgot about that actually.
I'm
Mm.
familiar with that one, but being in New York with this is new lore to me.
Yeah, it's amazing. They had a lot of story ideas that ended up getting segregated to other titles during that time. And I just thought that was really interesting.
You know, it's really it's I don't want to go too much into it, but like yeah, it's a really cool one. I remember me and my best friend were sitting and watching this at the time, and I think that part of the reason it kind of made you so impressed when we went from like Gen 4 to Gen 5 for consoles is Square was so good at their CGI at the time. It was so ahead of everybody else that aside from just having these games that use these polygon models, when they went to CGI and they were showing CGI cutscenes, it was like you're almost like watching a movie because you'd never seen anything close to realistic like that before. And you're watching this and you're like, "Oh my god, this looks real." And being there at that time in 1997 seeing that for the first time, you're just like, "Oh my god, this is so like insanely gruesome, but I can't help but watch."
Right? That seems like a common feeling. Like you must know more. All right. So with that said, we can move on to number 3, which is another trailer from PlayStation Magazine in '98. And this one is Metal Gear Solid.
Ooh, good choice.
Thank you.
That classic sound effect.
Right? I feel like I hear that everywhere.
All right.
All right. Um, I will start off with this is another nostalgic pick for me because that that theme song has to be one of my most favorite themes in video games. It's like when you hear it, I don't know, I just light up because I'm like, that's Metal Gear Solid. It's because it I don't know how to explain it. It's just such a good theme that brings to my mind what a great game this is. I think that's what it is. It just captures what a great series uh, Metal Gear Solid is, from the cinematics to the story to the themes, and at that age, seeing those game mechanics for the first time, I had never seen anything like that before. Being able to go stealth and find different creative ways of getting around enemies, that was just unheard of to me at the time. And so seeing that combined with the music, that's definitely a memorable moment as a child.
Yeah, I have to agree. Like, it's such a cool it is such like a trailer of its time too. I did love how the trailer, like, every like 15 seconds it's like Metal Gear Solid, like, and to keep
Right?
reminding you, it's like this is what you're watching.
Totally a
But
Kojima thing to do. It's so funny.
but yeah, I one of my favorite games on the PlayStation, the Psycho Mantis fight, I think is one of the most epic moments ever in games, and I actually have it displayed. This just recently came out.
show and
But
tell.
yeah, I'm a pretty big Metal Gear
Ooh.
Solid fan. There's been I think a couple other board games, but this board game just released last year, and it is
whoa.
so interesting because you play through the first game, and it has a book for all the codex, so you almost like read the story, and they even implement concepts from the game. Like there's like literally like check the box for like check the back of the box for Merle's codex number, so you know where to look it up in the codex book to like actually call it and read that conversation. And it has different minor branching paths like in the video game, like in the board game. Like do you like depending on how the Sniper Wolf mission ends. But so I'm a huge Metal Gear Solid fan, other than I could never get into 5. But 1 through 4 are like peak gaming for me.
Wow, I feel like I've been living under a rock. I did not know that existed.
Yeah, this board game just recently came out. And I've only played it a little bit. I got to keep going through it, but it is definitely takes a lot of the concepts of the game that are unique to it and does its best to implement them in a board game form, and it is very unique and very cool. And again, I just love like the art style for this entire board game too. It definitely pull from the PlayStation era.
Yeah, I love that art style. How about you, Pixel and Shadow? Have either of you played Metal Gear Solid?
I have played it, but I played a remake, Twin Snakes, on the GameCube. I liked it. I think the controls were, well, I haven't aged the best, but I generally had a good time with it.
I have played the original game all the way through, and I still think it holds up. I still think it's a very good game. Obviously, the Psycho Mantis fight is iconic, but there's one thing I want to say about the Psycho Mantis fight that I really like. So aside from reading off the games on your memory card that you played, it would also look for trends in games that you played. So it would be like, it would say something like, "So you like Suikoden?"
Yeah.
And then he would say something like, "So you like Azure Dreams? So you like Castlevania?" And then after naming off a certain amount of games, he would say something like, "You enjoy role-playing games." And that to me is amazing because it would look for a trend in games that you play and then comment on that. So not just individual games, but like a category of games. And I was like, dude, that's insane. That blows my mind.
Especially, and it's so hard to really make people understand back then, like the first time that started to happen, and you're like, what the hell is going on? When it just this game just like breaks the fourth wall and just starts reading games on your memory card, and you're just like, it was just one of those just super unique experiences. If you didn't know
pretty
about
amazing. It's pretty amazing because it's like you're playing as Snake the entire time, and Psycho Mantis just starts listing off things that you like, and he says he's doing this by reading Snake's mind, and it's like, wait, that's stuff that I like. What's he doing?
He feels so called out. Like, how dare you
it.
violate my memory card?
I remember real quick. There's Newgrounds, like way like when I was on Newgrounds. This is like 2008, back when that site was popping, and there was like a month where they had a bunch of like animators make little shorts for these two Metal Gear Solid videos that were each like 10 minutes long, but like 30, 60-second shorts from different animators. And someone made one of it is the Psycho Mantis scene, and he starts reading off like all the games, and then he starts like reading off like a bunch of embarrassing ones, and basically like starts laughing and can't get through the fight, and like Snake's like, no, he's like, my sister, my sister, and he's just like, what you play? But I don't know, it's just like one of my favorite, like,
that's awesome.
I think clips ever from the Newgrounds to pull us back 15 years, but.
But But I have a question. Did you all three experience the Psycho Mantis without knowing the gimmick beforehand?
Yes. Well, technically, I was watching my brother. I wasn't playing the first time through, but I was there with my brother, and we were both like, "What the hell is going on?"
Yeah, same here. First playthrough, yeah, I watched my oldest brother go through it.
So I will say I did know of it beforehand, but what I didn't know is that it would find a trend in the type of games that I played. So even though I knew it was going to be reading off things like Castlevania or whatnot, I was like, wait, it also knows the category of games. And of course, back then, categories for games were still kind of being developed for the most part. Like first person shooters weren't really common on console. So it's like if it knows things like that, that's pretty advanced for that time. So I was really impressed by that.
All
And
right.
yeah, Shadow, I'm assuming you, by the time you played Twin Snakes, knew about that gimmick.
Yeah, I did it.
Did you know
Well,
about the controller swap?
yeah, I knew
Yeah.
about that, and I knew about looking back at the case for a codex number. So I knew all about the good things before I played it. So I guess I didn't get the full experience, but I was late. So what can I do?
That's a tough one to keep secret.
Yeah, I played Twin Snakes a
Which
few years ago. So
I still love Twin Snakes too. I know some people don't like it, but I I love when Kojima gets wild. I think they let him get too wild with 5. I think he needs to be on a little bit of a leash, and the campiness in Twin Snakes, I just adore.
I do agree with you on that. Kojima is a smart, talented man, but he can get a little wild with his ideas. Sometimes they need to be reined in, but that's kind of also part of the reason why I love it is that he's willing to try out these different ideas and end up it's weird. He ends up telling the most profound themes in the wackiest ways. I don't know how he does it. If it was done by anybody else, it would just look really silly to me, but for somehow he makes it work. Oh yeah. But we'll move on since I don't want to eat up too much time.
No,
We'll
yeah.
move on number 4. And this trailer probably doesn't need much explanation, but we're just gonna go ahead and play it. It
All right.
is Final Fantasy VII Remake E3 2015.
Long ago, we looked upon a foreboding sky. The memory of the star that threatened all burns eternal in our hearts. In its wake came an age of silence. Yet with each fond remembrance, we knew those encountered were not forgotten. That someday we would see them again. Perhaps it was no more than wishful thinking. But after the long calm, there are now the beginnings of a stir. The reunion at hand may bring joy, it may bring fear, but let us embrace whatever it brings. For they are coming back. At last, the promise has been made.
PlayStation.
All right.
Oh man, I I died when I saw this trailer for the first time. Um,
Yeah, so
I
excited too.
right, I didn't see it live like during the E3 presentation. I actually found out I was at work on my phone looking at yahoo.com of all places. Just checking up on the news to see what was going on at E3. And I just happened to see this news report saying that 7 was getting a remake, and I was like, "What? That's what? Are you sure about that?" And so, um, when I finally got home, I quickly looked it up, and to my surprise, it was actually true. And when I saw that last shot of seeing Barrett and Cloud walking through Midgar, there is something about that scene that is just so iconic and nostalgic at the same time. Seeing them again in like, at that time in the present, I was just elated at the idea that they finally went through with the idea of a remake.
I
So
just remember like, oh, not knowing what to think because I still wasn't over that uh demo on the PS3 of the, I forget what the
like a tech demo
It was
yeah,
a
for
that's
tech demo.
the tech
Yep.
demo. Like I still was traumatized by that. So like as it's like, what is this? Like there, I can't until they literally spell it out for me. I'm like basically confused because it's like, is it a remake? Is it something else? What's
You
going
know,
on?
I remember that so fondly because that was a 2005 tech demo for Final Fantasy VII, and it was really showing off the PS3 technology. And then when they told us that they were not working on it, I was so like my disappointment was just so extreme because I'm like, 2005 is like the height of like FF7 basically. Advent Children had just come out. People were still talking about the game. They're showing off this tech demo, and I'm like, oh my god, this is amazing. And then they're like, oh, we're not actually working on it.
that did hurt. It's like, why are you doing this to us?
I don't know if you remember what I said the first episode. Like Final Fantasy VII is always was a game I wanted to play, but I knew a remake would happen sooner or later. So when I watched this live, I was so incredible happy, and I'm actually kicking myself for not remembering this trailer, so I could have this as my pick. I've been so much thinking about Rebirth since it released. I kind of forgot about remake and all that, so it was really cool to see this again. And I think he used some interesting words that we might have to look into in another episode, perhaps.
Yeah, that Final Fantasy VII PS4 trailer, the one that just played here. I remember that was just such a big deal to me because when it was announced that it was actually happening, I was really elated because I was so curious to see what they were going to do with the technology of that time. And it's insane to me to think that that was 10 years ago now.
Oh, I know.
Oh,
That's
Right?
so wild.
The game was so 4 years out from that trailer,
Right.
right? Because
Exactly.
it's 2020 for the remake, right? Or is it
Re-
Yeah.
Around
2019?
2020.
Yeah.
Yeah. Early 2020.
Oh
But I won't go
yeah.
on my opinions. You guys all know I'm the old man who is.
Uh,
What did he do to
no.
me?
But yeah, but that was a great time. I even looked at other reactions to the trailer and just seeing all these different people um just so elated that it touched so many lives that I didn't realize until I looked at those reactions. Like, wow, this is a bigger game than I gave it credit for. But yeah, so we'll move on to the last trailer. How am I doing on time? Filbert?
I think you're fine. I was gonna say after I'm good for going either way. I was gonna say after you do this trailer, we can either kind of make this part one and try doing part two either tomorrow or next week, where you do your music and shadow goes, or we can keep going. But if we keep going, we're probably looking at least 92 hours at the rate we've kind of been going.
Okay, well, I'll do this. I'll just do my trailer so that way
All
Shadow
right. Yeah,
can do
let's
his.
let's do this your next trailer, and then we can kind of cross that bridge.
Oh, okay, gotcha. All right. So this last one is another Hideo Kojima game. This is from Death Stranding, the teaser trailer from the TGA 2016.
All right, I'll kick it on. All right. Ian, I
Okay.
still have not played Death Stranding and still have no idea what to make or think of that game.
I was like, wow, that was weird, right, guys?
Oh yeah.
Yeah. I chose this trailer because I'm a simple person. Specifically because of the character that was featured in the cave, that was controlling all the skeleton soldiers,
Yeah.
and that was Cliff Unger, played by Danish actor Mads Mikkelsen. And I'm actually a big fan of his. I think he's a great actor. And so at the time of this reveal, I didn't realize he was going to be in it. I was already curious about Death Stranding, so I was going to play it regardless. But as soon as I saw um, him appear in this teaser trailer, I nearly fell out of my chair. I'm like, so I'm buying this day one.
It sounds like I don't know how many times my wife has taken me. Like she's like, "Do you want to go see this movie?" It's some movie I've never heard of, or it's like a big movie, but I'm like, I don't know if she's into this movie, and we go see it, and then Chris Evans shows up. I'm like, oh, all right, I know.
Oh,
It's
don't
like
need to say anymore.
you don't know how many times there's a movie that where he'll have a small role in, and we'll be like halfway through this movie that she wants to watch, and then Chris Evans, I always give her the look. I'm like, all right, and she's like, no, I promise. I'm like, nope, I know. You don't have to say anymore.
Oh my goodness. I try not to be that person, but I'm like, oh my God, I didn't know he was going to be in this. Now, even though I don't particularly like Kojima always hiring, actors to play these roles,
Yeah.
I missed it when he had more original characters created um, for his games. So he's kind of on a Hollywood kick right now, but he's an exception though. Him
Yeah.
him and Norman Reedus, I'll let them pass. But aside from that, I just thought that trailer made Death Stranding itself even more curious. Like, what is this game about?
It
I
definitely, yeah. It's got to be like one of the most like intriguing there's just so much weirdness going on that uh it there's not very many other trailers that kind of hit on what that one was able to do in 5 minutes, where you're just like, there's this like goo, all these dead crabs, like these babies. It's like World War II stuff, but not.
right, and that's what hooked me too. I'm like, I have to know what all of this means because even before it came out, I was looking at theory videos of what others were thinking might possibly be the case. I was going down a rabbit hole before it came out, but I love those kinds of trailers that are cryptic enough to lure you in to want to know more about
So,
it.
so I know you said so. I'm assuming you beat Death Stranding.
I did,
All
yeah.
right. So, do you think that trailer does a good job of encompassing, even if it's like in a artsy way, of what the game is?
I think for his character, it I'll say this, it doesn't say what his character is exactly, which is good. You shouldn't know that yet. Um, but after playing the game, I'm glad he's in it, but I kind of wish they did more with his character because this trailer kind of gives off the impression that there was going to be a lot more um, revolving around him than I thought there would be.
All right, yeah, yeah, because I
Yeah.
definitely would get the sense like he's like gonna be the primary antagonist or something to you, based off the
And
trailer.
yeah, I wanted to say something, but it might be spoilery. So, but yeah, we'll leave it at that. But yeah, but those were all of my trailers. If anybody has um any comments to chime in about.
Only that I remember watching it and I was gotten quite curious about what is this game. This is also the first Hideo Kojima game since the falling out with Konami, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
So it was kind of interesting to see what he would do without Metal Gear Solid.
And it was definitely he is going full Kojima and getting as weird can get.
Yeah.
If you love it, you love it.
Completely unrestrained.
Yep. And I like it. I think that's a big thing for me. It's just like, am I ready to take this leap with Kojima? I still don't know if I am. I've just I feel like Death Stranding is a game I'm either gonna love or I'm gonna really hate, and I'm kind of have like always never like went to it because like again this trailer super intrigues me, but in some ways it kind of bugs me because I'm like it didn't really tell me anything, but
Yeah.
it's really intriguing. I both love and hate that, and I feel like that's how I will be with the game. I'm either gonna super adore it or be like, "This was a waste of my time." Walking simulator, like they all say.
I will say about the walking simulator part is the game mechanics are actually quite addicting. Um, it's not the way that people
Yeah.
tend to describe it, but there's a lot more involved in what you're doing in traversing the world than just getting from point A to point B and just walk straight over there. But I will say, because I thought, what more can you do with delivering packages from one place to another? But surprisingly enough, it's actually a pretty engaging mechanic that's different. And
Yeah.
I thought it was an interesting change.
And I think it is kind of interesting too, because when you think about like old games like NES, SNES, and even like some early like PlayStation, like fifth gen games, like you could like I just think like Paperboy. Like we used to have games just based off like very simple, silly premises. Granted, they're a lot more simple games, but that is one thing I do love about Kojima. It's like I'm gonna make a game where you're essentially a package delivery person. And it's going to be very complex and have depth and probably have a very crazy story.
And yes, that is a guarantee. The story is nuts.
and the fact that he can still essentially make, yeah, again, I'm being kind of hyperbolic, but basically make like a Paperboy in 2016 or 2017 whenever it fully released is like really cool.
Yeah, it definitely stands out because there's not a lot of games that are like that. So yeah.
The trailer is an interesting one for me because I remember where I was when I saw it, and I remember thinking the same thing, like, I don't know what this is, but I'm curious. And one thing I did kind of pick out of the trailer when I saw it was, very much like Msmoon, I like Mads Mikkelsen quite a bit. I think he's great. And I think that if I'm correct, and I might be off point here, but because Kojima and Guillermo del Toro are really good friends, the character that's in the beginning carrying the baby looks a lot like Guillermo del Toro to me. And I don't know if they intentionally modeled him after Guillermo del Toro at the time, but that looks a lot like him. And I thought, well, you know what? If this is a Kojima game, it doesn't really surprise me. So it would be a perfect fit. But I do remember seeing the trailer and just being like, wow, this is so weird, but I want to know more. Having said that, I don't really care too much about the Kojima games that have kind of come after the fact, or I should say the one game, because as far as I know, I think he's only made Death Stranding since the split. And for me, it's kind of been sort of a complicated relationship. I like a lot of his older work, but very much like Msmoon, since he's had more of a focus on the Hollywood aspect of things and kind of drawing in more actors, I don't really care for that too much. Not that it's a problem, it's just not my thing, but I do like the work that he's doing. I just don't think that it's something I particularly enjoy. But I still think the trailer itself is really intriguing.
Yeah, I always get the sense that Kojima truly wanted to be a movie director,
Yeah.
and he fell into video games, And exactly like Msmoon was saying, I think it was like one of those things that's like a blessing and a curse because he can be like a director because he famously like Metal Gear Solid is done like that's the first game. There might be other games that did it first, but that's the first game I remember. You see a character on screen for the first time. It says their name and then it gives like the credits of who's voice acting in them, and that's like very cinematic, very cool. But I think now that he has like all of his like clout, he and like good for him. He's earned it if he wants to do it, but he is really like merging those two in a way that I think is still like satisfying for a lot of people, but I think a lot of us appreciate like when he came up with like these unique characters and wasn't just like, oh, I want this actor to star in my game.
Yeah.
I think as far as I know, I think he's been pretty open about that too. I think he said at one point in time that he really wants to make a movie, and that was around the time that Death Stranding came out. So he hasn't really shied away from that fact. He definitely loves the movie-like aspect of his games.
And that's what I think is so cool about a lot of his games was, again, going back to Metal Gear Solid, just because it's probably the easiest and, in my opinion, probably his best game. But the fact that you can have this like cinematic movie experience, but do things film can't do because they're a player of agency and like the fourth wall breaking and like the reading your memory, like these are things you can never get from a movie experience unless if you're going to see Metropolis or whatever it was. And you had I don't know if you guys heard about all that, but you have people talking to the movie but yeah, it's just like cool. It's really cool when he uses the film medium, but then does things that he can't do with that medium because it's a video game, and that's something I've always kind of appreciated about his games. And I think it's still definitely in from what I've seen of Death Stranding, there's still a lot of that in it. But I do think a really cool aspect of a lot of his games was like Miss Moon was saying, like his character concepts. And instead of even getting some of these people to play a character in his game, he's essentially like having them play the caricature of their film self in his game. At least for Death Stranding, that's kind of what he did. Because it's kind of like it's just Norman Reed, like it's just him. it's not him playing a character. It's just him.
And going back to what Pixel was saying, that the man in the beginning of the trailer looked like Guillermo del Toro.
Yeah,
that was him.
Yeah.
They modeled him into the game.
There you go.
I've seen the weird cutscene where it's like he like joins you in the shower or something. Like you go, you can take a shower.
I haven't heard about
He's just
that.
kind of lovely. He'll like be in there with Norman Reed. It's just like this is Kojima.
That's funny.
And from what I can tell, it's not even like sexual or anything. It's just like a platonic like shower scene. Just two bros.
Two homies. No. But yeah, those are my trailers.
Awesome picks.
Thank you.
Well, it is. We've been going for about 3 hours and 12 minutes. So, we can leave it up to kind of a little group vote. We can either kind of come back and do a part 2, whether that would be like tomorrow or next week, where Miss Moon can do her 5 songs, and then Shadow can do his songs and trailers, or we can keep going. But again, if we keep going, it'll probably be at the very most we'll be going at least 90 minutes, if not more. So kind of what's everyone's kind of gut reaction?
I'm fit to continue at least.
I was gonna say, I would be even willing to cut my music segment out so that Shadow can do just devoted to Shadows trailers and music.
I will prefer that we do a part 2 instead of cutting you off.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Uh,
agreed.
I think if so, depending on, and we can kind of maybe talk about this a little bit off air, but yeah, I think what probably makes the most sense is we do a part 2, because I probably should get some food in me too. Um,
Oh yeah.
so I guess we can talk like in the Discord if we want to try and do either tomorrow or if we just want to knock it back to next week and just kind of wrap it up then. If that sounds good to you guys.
You know what? That does sound better. I'm good with that.
I'm totally content with a part 2. Yeah, that's and whether we do tomorrow or next week, either way, I'm okay with that.
All right. Well, I guess we'll kind of talk over the schedule in Discord, and yeah, anyone watching, I'll whenever we go live, I'll post about it again in Dave's Discord and the share your streams. I'll also mention it in chat as well. Just like, hey, we're gonna go live next week or something this time. Keep a lookout and share your streams or something too, so you can catch it. And I'll try and have the VODs on my YouTube. I'm live streaming on the YouTube, so the VOD should be there. But again, we're playing music and trailers. If stuff just gets claimed, that's whatever. But with some of the stuff, you never know. I might have to edit stuff out or take it down if it's more than just the claim. But hopefully, you can catch the VOD on my YouTube. And I'll try, as long as it doesn't get on Twitch, I can highlight this whole VOD too, so it should stay up on Twitch. Though it could mute sections of songs. But bacon. I don't. Bacon's having me create people in games when I'm not playing games. Which just tells you, usually I'm playing games where I can make a character at least rename someone. Next time I play bacon, I'll make sure I make a bacon pancake.
I refunded your points.
No. But yeah, appreciate, again, awesome selections from everyone so far.
Yeah, very good taste.
Absolutely.
Yeah, it was very fun, and I would like to thank everyone that showed up.
Yeah, again, thank everyone, especially from the Game Dave community, showing up, giving support. It always makes these a lot more interesting and fun when we have some chat involvement. And yeah, we'll be back with a part 2. And again, for anyone kind of listening, we try and, well, I know we've been talking behind the scenes. We're trying to do one of these like once a month, once every other month. So kind of keep an eye out. And maybe we'll try and find a better way to kind of announce and talk about that so people can kind of stay informed if they do kind of enjoy our ramblings.
Yeah, thanks everybody for joining. I don't know if Zanyo or Lindis are still here, but thank you both. Thank you, Max. Thank you, Big Mark, Vinny, whoever else I'm forgetting. Yeah.
Bacon pancake.
Bacon pancake. There you go.
And thanks for sharing your insights too in the comments.
Yeah, Bacon. I can make something over in Dave's, even if it's a thread for people to post their top 5 trailers and soundtracks. I think that'll be cool. Again, just that interaction from a good talking subject over in Dave's community. And also, I will let everyone kind of in here know a little bit of. There are some cool ideas that me and Dave have been working on. Hopefully, for this year coming up. Vinny, some of that is with Minecraft too. And hopefully some of the people here, Pixel, Msmoon, Shadow, will be a little bit involved with some community stuff coming up in the future too. So some hopefully cool things come into the Game Dave community.
Yeah, we might see some nice surprises. I'm excited.
Me too.
Things are in motions. Evil left.
All right. There's always spicy treats if you're around Bacon. We know that. That's a given.
Bacon, I will have a piece of jerky in honor of you tonight.
I'll talk to Dave if there's another spicy chip thing or something. I'll do one with him one on one again. Though that spicy chip was one of the most painful like 5 minutes of my life. But
I have to tip my hat to you for that because I don't know if I could ever do that.
I was like, I'm not sending him this. If I'm gonna send him this to eat it, I got to do it too. I can't just. I was like, I can't just have my boy eat the spicy chip and me do nothing. So.
That's a real bro.
But all right, guys. Good night. Oh, yeah, Zanya's still here. Thanks for sticking around. Good night, and yeah, Zanya too. Hopefully, you'll be kind of involved with some of these little projects we have coming up. And yeah, people don't know Zanya is. Zanya, I'm gonna share your little website real quick. I know Shadow knows in chat, but Msmoon and Pixel, you need to check out that link I posted. We have so many amazingly talented people in like the Game Dave community. Zanya makes a bunch of games for the play date.
Oh, that's amazing.
Yeah,
And some amazing art.
And you also need to watch the showcases she does. That's incredible stuff. It's like it put the Summer Game Fest to shame, like the passion and the energy and.
I didn't even know you're hiding all this from us, Zanya. Oh yeah, your magazine. All right, get all your links in here.
You are too modest. You got to get yourself out there.
I think I'm modest, and I always try to never like over promote myself. When there's anything going on in Dave's community, it's like if there's like any type of reward or something, I always make sure other people get it. And I'm like, I try and be modest, but then I come across someone like Zanya. I'm like, what the heck? She's like 100 times more modest than me, which is awesome. Just because the internet, usually you have people who are the opposite, who are kind of like,
that's so true.
me.
So true.
I keep telling her to post things, but...
Oh crap! It got blocked. Let me unblock that link, Zanya, or tell it to let you. Why can't?
Get anything.
Here, it's your link tree. I think. Here's your link tree. I should be able to post it for you. There you go.
Community talent show at this point.
I know.
Definitely. Yeah, I've commissioned Msmoon to make me some art too for like my YouTube and stuff. Because after I found out she's an artist, I'm like, listen, I need some new stuff, Msmoon, and I want to toss you some money to make me some cool art.
Well, I hope I can deliver.
Oh, so far, the early stuff you sent me has been great.
GameBabes, the logo is so fantastic.
Oh, thank you.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So,
does it say GameBabes in the Japanese or what? Does it say?
Yeah, that says GameBabes.
Oh yeah. Then with the Tom Berry one too.
Yeah, the Tonberry one was a surprise to me because I did not see that prior to the stream actually starting, and I was like, "Wow, this is great."
Oh yeah, well, I'll check out that song you posted, Max. But yeah, I'll make like a little channel for us to people, and I'll poke Dave about it. Maybe have him, because he was maybe going to join us in this podcast today, but he had a opportunity come up that he couldn't pass up, which was first time having a babysitter for both boys. So him and Game Wife are like, we gotta take advantage of this. I'm like, do it, dude. Go enjoy yourself. So maybe I'll this will be a good idea for stream next week. Is him kind of going, even if it's a brief thing, him going over his top 10 or top 5 trailers and soundtracks or songs. But all right, I'm gonna end stream here. Pixel, Shadow, Msmoon, we can stay on for a little bit if you guys want to talk schedule or something. Or I know Msmoon, we were gonna talk some art stuff. But again, thanks for watching, everyone. We really appreciate it a lot, and hopefully catch part 2 here within a week or two.
Thanks everybody.